Welcome back to the channel. I'm so excited to talk with you today. We've gotten a little upgrade, okay? We're officially mic'd, okay? Hopefully, you'll notice a little bit higher quality in the audio and the video today. So, what I wanted to talk to you about today, I started writing the script for this and it was like, I felt like I was a NaNoWriMo. I was like writing like 2,000 words so quickly. What prompted this video is I've really been thinking about the transition from childhood to adulthood. I'm 23 years old, but I still feel really aggressively like a kid. However, this year has undoubtedly been the most I've ever felt like an adult. A little over a year, I started my first full-time job. This is my first time living in an apartment by myself, so I'm paying for my own rent. I'm paying for my own utilities, my own internet, my own phone. The bills are billing more than the Buffalo Bills are billing, okay? But saying that, I still feel really like a kid. I always choose, or it's like, I think it's slightly serendipitous, but also for my own choices, where I end up working at places where I'm the youngest person, and I'm also the youngest child. I graduated college, so that makes me feel like an adult, but I'm still taking graduate classes, so again, I'm still a student. And I still feel like really uncertain about what I want to do with my short amount of time on this planet, but I'm not trying to get too existential here. That's not the point of today's video. I'm not here to talk about my transition to adulthood, actually, although I'll probably use it for comparison a little bit. Largely, what's been on my mind is the current generation that's kind of growing up, and that that really pains me to act like I'm not the youngest generation, even though I am Gen Z, so it's like I'm also a part of this generation. However, there definitely is like an age of people who've been growing up that have been experiencing different things from what I experienced when I was like younger, middle school, high school, all that jazz. So I think to define it, I was born in 1999, so basically I'm a 90s baby. And to be clear, December of 1999 I was born. That's not who I'm talking about. I'm talking about probably kids who have been born like a few years into 2000s and then everything later than that, pretty much. I just want to talk about how that age has transitioned. So I've broken down my thoughts into a few a few categories. So I hesitate to even discuss this specific category with the fear of sounding like a millennial. As I said though, I am Gen Z, okay? I am Gen Z. I don't think this is like a new concept, but one of the things that really prompted me to make this video is the idea, and I think we've all been seeing it if you're online even a little bit, that a lot of the kids, particularly girls, or I should say especially girls, are kind of skipping that awkward phase a lot of us used to go through in middle school, and they're going straight to like being pretty fashionable, pretty like in the know about makeup, which I still don't know how to do my makeup, so they're already ahead of me, but I feel like they're just really skipping that awkward phase and going straight to fashionable and popular trends. My hypothesis is that this is partially contributed to kids getting online earlier. They can easily follow influencers and models and celebrities who are showing them, fashion styles or influencing them on products that they otherwise wouldn't have seen unless they were online. Because I think it's very clear to see that the influencer quote unquote marketing is different than what you're going to be seeing when you're watching like cable TV or even streaming services with ads. When I was in middle school and high school, which makes me feel very old. I don't know why this whole video is a bad idea. I'm feeling very, very old, feeling outdated a little bit. When I was in middle school and high school, the internet was still pretty boxy. My first social media was Facebook, so I did skip the whole like MySpace era. I did join Facebook, and it was purely to post like cringy photos, maybe update my status for like my closer friends who were also online and my family. The influencer didn't really exist yet, and celebrities were still really more focusing on being like unobtainable, something that I guess everyone who was in the upper class, something for them to reach for. So they were not trying to be, just like us, which I think is definitely a marketing strategy that more famous people or more influencers are using now. Then, like at that time when I was like first online, we were largely basing our interests off of each other, so our friends and family, and what we were seeing on TV, because that was really how we were experiencing trends at the time. And maybe like magazines, if you were reading magazines, like my mom used to get People. I also think this gave us more of an opportunity to build like a self-identity, like figure out what we personally like versus being told by influencers and people online that we don't personally know, but who are building these trends and telling us what to like, telling us what to wear, telling us what's popular, what you need to do to fit in. Versus then at the time when I was first on social media, it makes it sound like it's so long ago, but really it was like 10-15 years ago that I first got online. Yeah, we were just basing everything off of our friends who we were going to school with. I went to a really, really small rural school, so that was like a much more minute group of people versus, these Basically anyone who has Wi-Fi. We also didn't have such curated content. Most people weren't online or on Instagram to try to build a following. They were there to connect with their friends. Social media also makes us feel really watched. I saw a post one time about once you post, like you're going to post something on Instagram, once you post it, you have to like airplane mode your phone, like walk away and don't check it for hours just because of the like anxiety of posting something. It had, in that post I saw that talked about that, had just like a lot of likes. So it's obviously not like a singular occurrence. You know, many people are feeling this way. I personally don't check if I post something on Instagram, which I don't really post as much as I used to, for sure. But when I post now, I don't check it. Like I don't check it. So if anybody comments on my post, I'm probably gonna see it the next day, because I don't like that feeling of obsessing. And I have turned likes off. I actually really like that feature of turning likes off, because I don't like have to focus on that. And in the past I have, especially when I was younger, really focused on that. And that's not something that I want to like spend my time doing. I'm already online enough. I don't need to be also worrying about how I'm being perceived. In the same vein, when I post on YouTube, so like when I post these videos, I will check a few times on the day that it goes live, just to make sure that like the quality is okay and that nothing is like amiss. But after that, I will only let myself check the stats once a day, because it just takes the fun out of creating when you're worried about how it's doing versus if you liked your content or if you're excited to keep creating. Also, I'm sorry, I'm losing daylight. I really started filming too late, so I apologize. The lighting is going to change throughout this video. I really want to talk about how the male gaze contributes to this feeling of like being perceived and needing to feel that you're being perceived positively or in a certain way. So if you don't know, the male gaze is the idea that women are framed in the context of male desire. It was popularized by Laura Mulvey, who is a film theorist, as the term is often discussed in film studies. So if any of you have ever taken like a film class, that's something that you're definitely talked about. Another thing that's kind of in the same vein is the Bechdel test, if you've ever heard of that. And it's not the same thing, but it's in the same vein where it's like you're wanting to make sure that film perspective isn't being totally clouded by male expectation or only speaking about men or not having women speak to each other. We don't want all our movies to be specifically from the male perspective, hence the term male gaze, or for male desire. Obviously, that's what you want for some films, if that's what you're going for, but it shouldn't be every single film we're watching. Anyways, I digress. It is also discussed as a psychological perspective that we're taught through mirroring media. To quote Lauren Mitchell Jackson from The New Yorker, she says, "At the time, the work of the mid-century French psychoanalyst," I'm gonna fuck this up, I do apologize, Jacques Lacan was de rigueur in cinema studies. I don't know if I said that right either. I'm horrible at French. I do apologize. Hablo español, no habla francés. His concept of the gaze position that the act of looking was fundamental to the development of one's identity. That is, we begin being taught to portray ourselves desirably as if we are being watched by men, or specifically for the benefit of men. The reason I bring this up is because women are being taught younger and younger, so I should almost say girls are being taught younger and younger, try to be perceived and try to be understood from a male perspective, from the male gaze. And that is because they're getting online earlier. It's like you don't even notice it happening. The more and more you're online, it's just like the psychological understanding that gets ingrained in your brain without even you paying attention. It just becomes part of you, as becoming online becomes like a very normal thing. People often do say, nobody online is real, like nothing online is real. You shouldn't believe what you see online because everybody's performing. I think the competition of the male gaze can contribute to this. Girls can feel the psychological urge to look the prettiest online, look like they're having the most fun online, even at some points be the most seductive online, and it's so harmful. Lastly, I want to talk about within this category, this theme, is this idea of being a girl's girl. I personally, this is like totally my own thing, but I always contribute the term being a girl's girl in a negative connotation purely because of one season. Like I think it was like 2 seasons ago on Big Brother, there was this player named Alyssa, and she kept trying to evict this other player on Big Brother, Taylor, because she kept saying Taylor's not a girl's girl. She was going around to everyone saying, oh, Taylor's not a girl's girl. We can't trust Taylor, so she needs to be evicted. And that just like really made me associate being a girl's girl with a really like catty energy, like a really negative energy, which it's like, it shouldn't be. Girl supporting girls should not be a negative connotation. Anyways, that's my own problem. That's not a global problem at all. My interests can often skew more towards things that are more associated with being the likes and the hobbies of men. However, will always value my female friendships. There's this like kind of safety and trust that for me, I think I can only get with women. And that's not to say that you can't trust or be very close with men, because I've had like male best friends and been very close with men. I just think there's like a special thing between girls that can't be replicated with men. There's just like innate special feeling, and that makes me value my female friendships so much. And I'm sure there's like a similar thing, although different, but I'm sure a similar concept between like pure like male friendships between men. In saying that, like growing up, sisterhood has played a huge part in making me who I am today. For example, I played soccer with the same group of girls from probably when I was like 8 to when I graduated high school. It was like the same core group of girls, and that is something that I will like cherish for my whole life. So I really just can't imagine like where I would be today without like those sleepovers where you're running around outside and you're watching movies and you're jumping on trampolines. Like those are some of like the like fondest memories I'll have. And I'm just really, really worried that those aren't happening to the same level as they did when I was a kid. And I really hope I'm wrong about this, because I'm not that young anymore, but I'm really afraid that the going outside and the prank calling boys and the, you know, fun activities like that at least was a really big part of being in like middle school for me. I'm worried that that's being replaced by like sitting on your phone, and maybe, you know, this is like off the dome. Maybe it's evolving to something cool as well. Like maybe making TikToks together is a fun activity that kids can do. And you know, that sounds like, to me, just thinking right now, that sounds like a really positive thing as well. So maybe there are like good ways. I don't know, the middle school like girl experience has evolved, but I also worry that a lot of it is like sitting on couches and like scrolling through Instagram, or like saying like, oh my god, did you see what this person posted? I get that gossiping is also a part of middle school, and it's probably like an important thing, but I just worry that social media makes bullying more accessible? ? Anyways, that was a bit of a tangent. Okay, so this is kind of like totally switching gears, but still around the topic of the transition from like childhood to adulthood. And that is how education has changed due to the interwebs and how, okay, hold on. I always had the internet when I was in school too, so I don't want to be like, when I was your age, we used pencil and paper. But I do think the internet, especially AI, is much different from when I was in high school. So I want to talk really briefly about how education has changed and how that might affect kids as they become adults. This section largely stems from a TikTok, which I realize is very ironic, that I saw, and it was about, the original one I saw was two teachers, but like a stitch, if you will, talking about their experiences being teachers to, I think like around like elementary school age kids. And then when I was researching to find the TikTok again to make this video, I happened to find like other videos of other teachers discussing the same thing about their worries.
These kids can't read. They can't decode. They have no vocabulary, no background knowledge. I've never seen anything like it.
I'm just going to read so I don't mess this up. I saw a stitch basically of a school teacher talking about how he teaches at a school in an affluent area, but his students can't read, write, or comprehend.
I have kids constantly asking me, how do I spell window? How do I spell important? How do I spell though? And they be serious. They're dead serious.
I do think there are multiple factors we can discuss when we're talking about how kids' education has changed. And I think a large factor can be COVID, and when people were at home for about 2 years, and how that schooling definitely had an effect. But I do think it's, for me anyways, from my understanding and from my perspective, I think it's really hard to contribute all education failures just to COVID. I think that social media also plays like a huge part in it. I've discussed on my channel before how TikTok has been proven to decrease attention spans. Like, do I need to even bring up the Subway Surfer videos or the Minecraft playthrough videos? That's just like very, I know this term is overused now, but it's like a little dystopian. It's a little Wall-E. But I truly worry how this is going to affect kids as they transition into the workforce and the workplace, and they have to do tasks that they are going to find boring, but that it doesn't matter, like it needs to get done anyways. Another aspect that is playing into this happens to be the deity that is ChatGPT and AI in general. But I truly believe, and I don't think this is a unique thought, ironically again, wow, a lot of irony going on in this video, but I don't think that AI is going anywhere. I think it's going to become a pretty big part of our lives, and I do think we should be scared to a certain degree. I'm not like trying to incite fear in any capacity, but I think that I'm really scared for the idea of coming up with new ideas, I guess, because, you know, AI is trained on existing data, existing things. So AI, in theory, is not creating anything new. So I worry if we depend on it too much that it's going to hamper the creation of new ideas, which is, to me, one of the most important things about life, but that's just me. Why would you in high school, when you often don't care a lot about a lot of things because you're angsty and you can't help it, but why in high school would you spend time thinking of a interesting thesis for your essay when you could just ask ChatGPT to do it for you? I just really fear that some kids are going to get left behind because they're going to be using AI as a major crutch, and I don't know what we can do to prevent it. Obviously, there's some kids who are going to use it to write their whole essays and they're going to get caught, but I also think there's a large percentage of kids who are smart enough to use AI in a way that won't get them caught. For example, coming up with a thesis for their paper or being able to paraphrase what ChatGPT tells them. And honestly, I think that would have been me. Like, I think if I was in high school right now, I would be using that to my full, extent, to my full ability. So I think there's a large percentage of kids who are going to be using that, and that's going to have repercussions. And the scary thing is once you are done with school and you enter the workplace, like I was saying, how are you going to adapt your use of ChatGPT or AI into your workplace? Because it's, to me, at least in my work, it's not totally applicable. Like, I use it to help me write emails that need to be written in a very specific political way, to not offend anybody. And that's kind of the extent of how I'm using it. But I just don't think there's as many applicable uses of it. And I'm not talking about medicine or anything right now. I'm talking about just generally. There's not as many ways to use it as there is in school, I think, as of right now. And on top of that, say you do work in a field where it is applicable and you can use it all the time. Does that mean we're going to be living off recycled ideas for the indefinite future? So I guess this is the part of the video where I propose solutions and a moral. I hate that I already feel like my parents were right about this, but the number one thing that I can think of is that maybe our parents were right, that we don't need to get phones right away. We don't need to be iPad kids immediately. So I think if I had kids, I would also consider not getting them at least a smartphone until necessary, I don't know, middle school maybe or high school. I just think it's nice to delay it, even though your kids are going to be begging you for a phone. That's just natural. We don't necessarily need to put a screen in front of every kid, I don't think. My first phone was a track phone, and it looked kind of like how you picture a Nokia, basically. And I had minutes, and so I would only ever have a few hundred minutes at a time max. And it had one of those keyboards where you have to hit the number one key 3 times to get to C or whatever, one of those alphanumeric keys. Is that what they're called? No. And I was fine, I think I turned out okay. I hope. I think having phones that you can only call and text on until in middle school, I think that's okay, actually. It makes your kid mysterious, okay? Sometimes I want a flip phone. I've been watching the Scream movies back, and I'm damn, if I could just convince myself to get a flip phone and get rid of my phone, I actually think my life maybe would be better. Flip phones are okay, I think. It'll make your kid mysterious, all right? Don't worry about it. Everybody will want to be friends with them. Yeah. Bullying? Never heard of her. Okay, so my next moral or whatever, and this is gonna sound kind of hippie-ish, but I guess I am kind of hippie-ish, but I recommend going outside, putting your feet in the grass, touching a tree, hugging a tree, breathing some fresh air. Simply going for walks or hikes in nature with no phones, no music, or by yourself or with friends even. Some normal uninterrupted conversation I think is amazing. One, for your mental health, but for your bodily health too, I guess. It's such a good reminder getting outside and reminding yourself that you exist in a corporal body that you have to take care of, and you're not heckin' only living in the metaverse or whatever fucking Zuck wants us to do. Our bodies and our minds and our ideas are some of the only things that AI doesn't have on us, and I think we should exploit that to the best of our ability and use that to the best of our ability for our own sanity. And lastly, I think I've said this before, but I really, really recommend having a screen time timer on any platforms that you're spending way too much time on. I used to have a 40-minute timer on TikTok, and now I have a 20-minute timer on TikTok, and that's great for me because I could easily spend so much time on TikTok, but then I always get upset later when I'm oh, I didn't accomplish half the things I wanted to accomplish because I spent it on TikTok, and I didn't accomplish anything because I didn't create anything that was fulfilling, I just scrolled and watched F1 TikToks all day. So, you know, who's the real winner there? Max Verstappen, but not me. No one's gonna get that joke, but it was funny to me. And also, okay, this one's like really kind of random, but it fits my personality if you know me, I guess. But another one I really recommend, watching movies from the 70s and 80s. Like I said, I've been going through a Scream phase. Matthew Lillard, the man you are. 70s and 80s movies are so fun because they often exist in a world where people had flip phones or they didn't have cell phones. And it's such an interesting concept seeing people exist without them, and to me it seems so freeing. Like, I'm like, oh, I wish I existed in that world a little bit, because I think like when I go on the bus or the train or I'm walking, people are wearing headphones, or they're wearing headphones and they're not looking up from their phones, and it's like, sorry to use this term again, but it's a little dystopian, and I hate it. Like, I also can get like anxious from communicating with new people, but it's so like, I think we would all be so much less scared of it if we did it a little bit more. So that got sidetracked. But so watch these 70s and 80s movies, because I think it's like really refreshing seeing people exist in a world where they're not glued to a phone. Sorry, I said 70s or 80s, but honestly, even up to like the early 2010s, there's like this different expectation and this different perception of the use of technology and phones and computers even. So yeah, I know none of these are going to solve the world's problems or answer any of the questions about how kids are evolving into adulthood these days, which is like actively what I'm doing right now. But I think I'm kind of on the tail end of claiming I'm a child, as I'm about to be 24, which I don't want to talk about even a little bit, not even a little bit actually. So let's move on. It's nice to like be aware of these things, and if you integrate even like any of these things that I've just presented as a moral or solutions, I guess, like maybe it'll help you worry a little less about being perceived or get offline a little bit more and exist in the real world. I don't know. I don't have the answers. You're watching this on the internet right now, so this whole video is an oxymoron, but it's just something I wanted to talk about. So that's it. It's gotten much darker. I should talk right in this one little line of light. There's so much more that could be talked about within this topic. Yeah. I don't know. If you have any thoughts about this, please sound off in the comments. Like I said, I'll be reading them once a day. So I'll get to you eventually, hopefully. Unless you're mean to me, then I won't. Yeah, thanks so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts, your feelings. I hope you have a lovely weekend. I hope you had a nice Thanksgiving if you celebrate. And I hope you're staying safe and healthy. If you are interested in more videos by me, please subscribe. Hit that little subscribe button, as they say. And like this video if you like this video. Crazy, I know, right? But yeah, I'll see you in my next one. Peace, love, and happiness. Mwah, 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 mwah. Ciao, Bella.